On this week's episode, a whoosh bomb of a different kind for ESPN. What are the odds for pop culture? And is it good to be Giancarlo Esposito right about now? All this and more as we once again delve into the pop culture cosmos. And we're back with another episode of the Pop Culture Cosmos. This is Gerald Glassford from Pop Culture Cosmos, the Lakers Fast Break, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, and Game Source. We truly appreciate everyone out there listening to all of our great shows. I've been doing so many shows lately, I even forgot to change my name right below from Lakers Fast Break to Pop Culture Cosmos. I've done a ton of interviews for the Lakers Fast Break channel. I've got them also recorded already, and also a ton on the way. So if you get a chance and you're an NBA fan, check it out, the Lakers Fast Break. In fact, I will have not only one, but two interviews from those shows, parts of them anyways, that will be on today's program. I'm going to be talking to Rafael Esparza, the head odds maker at MyBookie and DocSports.com. He'll be talking about some of the great odds that are out there in pop culture that he helps create. Plus also as well, I'm going to have Rafael Barlow from NBA Draft Junkies. He's one of my favorite guests. Does a great job every time he's on the Lakers Fast Break. He and I are going to be talking about the latest controversy at ESPN in regards to Adrian Wojnarowski. And he usually breaks the story, but this time he is the story when it comes to a certain thing that was done earlier in the week in regards to a letter that was sent to Adam Silver by a representative in Congress. So he interjected himself into that fray as far as, well, with a profane word that I won't repeat here on the air, but it's led to a big controversy left and right, things of that nature. And I basically talked to Rafael Barlow. We share our thoughts on it. Where do you step over the line on as far as journalism concerned? We talk about that coming up here later in the program. But also we're going to be talking about a lot of great things, including Ubisoft's conference and their own controversy coming up. What the heck is going on at Devolver Digital? I don't even know, but they're just out there. They're crazy, but a lot of people are loving what they're doing because they had their own digital conference coming up, if you can even call on that. So I'm going to ask Josh his thoughts about that coming up. Plus, we're going to try and reach and get to Unsolved Mysteries, a record-breaking auction for a Super Mario cartridge, and so much more. But before we go ahead and talk about all that stuff, it wouldn't be a Pop Culture Cosmos without my good friend. You got to check out what he's doing today at popculturecosmos.com. His awesome podcast, Topicocalypse, and the Super BS Gamescast, plus also as well his terrific book, Congratulations You Suck, which is now available at Amazon.com and also Barnes & Noble. It is my good friend. Well, he says he's Josh the Underwhelmed. It is Josh Peterson, our own Giancarlo Esposito. What's up, man?
What's up? What's up? So occasionally we'll talk about Mobile Suit Gundam on this show. And for those of you who don't know, Mobile Suit Gundam, the origin, is now streaming on Hulu. And that is basically a retelling of the original Mobile Suit Gundam cartoon. Well, what I learned with this is that it's not something you can watch with kids, because this is the first time that they have ever shown nudity in a Gundam show. So that being said, it's a little more adult, but if you're not wanting to watch the original Gundam series from the 80s, this is a good alternative to it because it kind of shortens all the storylines. It goes from 50 episodes to 6 episodes. But yes, I am in the middle of it. I will have some thoughts on the complete series once I watch the last episode. But yeah, I'm digging it so far. So far.
Did you have the kids there when you watched it?
No, luckily, they were, everyone was in the other room, but I mean, it was shocking. It was not the Gundam of my teenage years.
Just like Disney Plus has just released X-Men Days from Future Past, and I bet a lot of kids, including my own, if they watch it, and I'm just realizing this as we speak, might get I heard the report, and I just passed my mind that Hugh Jackman's booty is front and center, and they're not censoring it for Disney Plus. So I'm just realizing now that a lot of kids are going to be watching Hugh Jackman's butt pretty essentially over the next few weeks and months as they watch X-Men Days of Future Past, which is probably to me the best X-Men movie, regardless of how you feel about Hugh Jackman's behind.
Let's be honest though, if like your behind was immortal and constantly healed and looked that good, you would probably want to display it on Disney Plus also.
If they paid me enough money, heck yeah. But it is going to be a great episode. We got a lot of things to talk about. I wanted to go ahead first, Josh, and just something real quick. We haven't been able to acknowledge it on the show, and that's the passing of two outstanding contributors to the world of entertainment. Carl Reiner recently passed away. Just a genius when it comes to comedy. Wanted to go ahead and acknowledge his passing. So many projects, television, film. Obviously, his son has done some great things as well within the realm of directing and comedy himself. But truly just an inspirational guy when it comes to the world of comedy. And the fact that he was part of the Ocean series, him and those movies were truly awesome as well. Want to hear your thoughts real quick on Carl Reiner because, it's just so sad that I think he was in his late 90s, but still very much a beloved member of the Hollywood community.
Yeah, that was kind of it's weird because he's a star that I have not thought about in a long time, but I do, obviously I don't know his whole back catalog, but I do have fond memories of watching him in the Ocean series. It was really sad because I do remember like laughing. He was one of my favorite parts, not laughing as death, but I mean, laughing at the stuff I've seen him in. Like he was my favorite part of Ocean's 11 was him. Is he related to Rob Reiner?
Absolutely, that's his father.
Okay, yeah. So I was just curious about that, but yeah, I mean, it's a total tragedy. The Hollywood is going to be at a loss without him. It's just we're seeing this like eventual passing of the old guard, and it's kind of sad to see.
Well, again, there's another passing of the old guard in the fact that Ennio Morricone. I know a lot of people out there don't know who he is, but he is literally or was literally one of the best composers of all time. Not only did he create some of the most memorable music for a lot of the spaghetti westerns of the 1960s, but just so many other movies that he was part of and that he helped create, and soundtracks that he just went through and made. Just, like I said, Once Upon a Time in the West, The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, even all the way up to The Hateful Eight here with the advent of that movie. I mean, there's so many other movies that he was a part of. Numerous Academy Award winner, Golden Globes winner, Grammys galore. He just one of the truly great composers of our time. Ennio Morricone, unfortunately, also passed away recently. And as someone who, I think also the Untouchables as well, I think he may help with that soundtrack. So many different soundtracks he was part of that were so memorable. The spaghetti westerns, I think, are the most remembered for him, but he is one of the greatest composers of our time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have too much knowledge of him. It's, when you think of composers, you naturally think of people like John Williams and Danny Elfman and people like that. But I mean, it's sad to see talent like that go. The Untouchables was a great movie. It was really well scored. Let's just. I would hope to see a lot of like rising talent, but it also is sad to see some of the older talent going too. What's your thoughts on like Charlie Daniels though? I mean, do you remember
The Devil Went Down to Georgia?
Yeah, I mean that's been in a lot of movies, and also I don't know if you've ever been down to what was that place in Buena Park that was by Medieval Times? Remember they had a Western show?
Yeah, but they also had a pirate show too.
Yeah, it's a pirate place now. I forget what it's called, but I mean they had a big like Charlie Daniels theme thing going on there too. So I don't know. It's been a sad week for celebrities and pop culture icons, and I would hope that we don't have more weeks like this.
Absolutely. But we pay our respects to all three of those individuals. Thank you for the contributions that you made to us, or that you made for us right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. But there's a lot more to talk about on today's program. And before we get to Rafael Esparza, because we've got not one, but two Rafaels on today, head odds maker at MyBookie and DocSports.com. I want to ask you real quick, you saw Ubisoft's Forward Conference, whatever they're going to call it. They're going forward. Well, they kind of went backward because they didn't say any public statements about the allegations that they had with one of their studios overseas, that it was some really bad issues in regards to harassment and things of that nature, that I think not one, not two, but three members of the studio or more have been let go because of some really bad stuff going down at their offices. But they did have their conference today. I want to hear your thoughts on the abuse allegations that are out there, but also, of course, the games. And isn't it great to be Giancarlo Esposito right now?
Yeah, that's
The Boys, Mandalorian, and Far Cry 6. He's the guy starring in Far Cry 6.
He's the guy. I want to get to that in just a second. All the allegations we're talking about here, like it's interesting because to me, like that you hear a lot about things happening in gaming studios. Like it happens so much, and like it lately has not been surprising to say like, oh, Rockstar does this, or Telltale does this. Like it doesn't surprise me, or even like Quantic Dream does this. Like it's a lot of that stuff is just like, okay, whatever. What really surprised me was hearing this stuff coming out of Ubisoft, because all their games start out with that little thing saying like, hey, this was made by a team from multiple different religions, sexual orientations, genders, yada yada, all that stuff. So you think that like, okay, Ubisoft's pretty woke, like they know what they're doing here. And then you hear something like that and you're like, okay, well maybe it's there's more going on behind the scenes than we think. As for the director of Assassin's Creed Valhalla, how he cheated on his wife and stuff like that, I honestly, like, to me, that's not important to me. I mean, I know to some people like, oh, hey, he did this, he needs to. I don't think that's worthy of stepping down from your job. Like, that's just my thoughts on it. Like, your personal life is your personal life. Deal with it on your own time. But these other things coming in, hearing about how there's like sexual harassment and stuff like that within the studio, that is something that is quite shocking to me, because like I said, Ubisoft's always kind of prided themselves on being the diversity company, the company you go to if you're like have different beliefs on religion, gender, stuff like that. Like that is the company you go to. And so, they didn't mention any of that because I think it's the news about it is so fresh. But they did show a lot of clips of people working in the studio, people designing characters, people designing levels, talking to employees. Like they showed a lot of stuff in that conference revolving around that. And it made me wonder if that was just good timing on their part, that they had that stuff prepared already, or if they had to, record stuff yesterday or today or whatever and kind of throw it in at the last minute because of these allegations. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, it had to have been. I mean, it's all about timing, my friend. And they had to, without going into that direction, they still wanted to go ahead and try and address something of that nature. But they obviously, like you said, they weren't going to go ahead and really get into it because they wanted to go ahead and focus on the games. But sometimes it's hard to focus on the games when so much is happening outside of the box. But they did make an impression today. I think they made a very good one with the gaming centric wise. So I want to ask you your thoughts real quick on how Ubisoft performed overall. I mean, Far Cry 6, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and all the things you can do there, although none of it's really just outside of the box or really just something that's really new when it comes to Valhalla. Just they're adding some features in there that's going to make it more interesting. And of course, Watch Dogs Legion, got to see that. That's very entertaining. So I'm very interested on that. So I want to hear your thoughts on Ubisoft's conference when it comes to what the gaming part of it overall.
So the gaming part, it was no EA, and a lot of the stuff they showed was cool, and like I enjoyed watching it. But the fact that they dedicated like 15 to 20 minutes to mobile games really underwhelmed me. As I was expecting to hear something about, maybe something they hadn't announced before, or something they hadn't talked about in a while, like Beyond Good and Evil 2, or Skull and Bones. Is that the name of the pirate game?
Yeah,
That they've
the
been
pirate
working
game
on
that's
for a
been
long time?
seems like it's been development forever.
It'll never come out. It probably will never come out. But or even like I would have loved to hear about an Assassin's Creed 1 remaster, because they've repackaged every Assassin's Creed game except for the first one. So on that note, and I know a lot of people are kind of disappointed that they didn't talk about a new Splinter Cell, or Prince of Persia. I know those properties. We will see one of those games within the next 5 years, but they don't seem to really have any intention on developing those at the moment. So as for the games they did
And then
develop,
Tom Clancy was done, like you said, on a mobile platform as opposed
on a
to
mobile
Steam.
platform,
Yeah.
they're like, hey, we know you guys love Sam Fisher, but it's not the one that you were expecting. It's a mobile battle royale, and maybe people will enjoy playing this battle royale game, Hyperspace or whatever it's called. But I feel like that the effort and time and money could have been spent elsewhere, because there are too many battle royale games out there, and like Ubisoft is good at these big narratives, and I don't think they excel at multiplayer, except Rainbow Six. Okay, sorry, I'm babbling here. Watch Dogs Legion looks really good. I love the idea that like you can play as all these different people. I was talking to Brian Wegner on the Super BS Games cast about how he's talking about this idea about he's disappointed that they only have one or two antagonists. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, you can literally play as anybody in this game, and I don't know if they're clinging to what they showed last E3, the fact that like once your character dies, you just jump into the next character, and I don't know if they're going to keep that going on, but I feel like with all these different characters you can play, you need to have some kind of constant in the game to keep your narrative threaded. What are your thoughts on that, though? Do you think that the game needs a main antagonist, or do you think that it can exist all on its own without something like that?
I think it's different. I think it's a unique approach to it. But again, it's only going to be as entertaining as the protagonist that you're actually using. Like, okay, you're going to be, well, it's so weird because will you be playing the same way whether you have an 85-year-old woman or whether you're playing as a 35-year-old man? That's what I want to know. I know they've showcased it as such, and that's the way they want to perceive it, but I'd like a little bit difference and I like, if I'm playing as an older individual, I like this. There's some attributes there that maybe would hinder me or make it more difficult. Or if I'm playing someone younger, I may be able to take advantage of certain things. Just make sure everything that every time I get into a new individual, that it's going to be entertaining. That it's going to be something that I want to go ahead and keep playing, because if I start getting bored as you keep on jumping into individual after individual, that it's going to be not as fun as it was when I first started, then I'm not going to go ahead and continue. I'm not going to go ahead and keep on playing.
Well, if you look at it, all the different people, and I don't know if they're going to be different classes. I was wondering about this too. Like, Watch Dogs is notorious for having, you have a construction worker on this corner, and then you walk a couple blocks over, and you're going to encounter the same modeled construction worker, right? All these characters all look the same. All the people, there's no diversity in the people. You have maybe 10 different models just scattered throughout the city. With this one, I'm curious if they're going to have that, or it's going to be something like the what was it? It was Assassin's Creed Unity, right? That had literally a town, a city just packed with all these different models. The processing on the game was really slow, but it looked kind of cool. So I'm wondering if they're going to have something like that. Obviously, like they showed the construction worker, right? He has the nail gun. They showed the old lady; she has the handgun. They showed a couple of the different hacker classes, and they can control bots and do their drones and stuff like that. What was really cool was that the Irish. Did you see the Irish guy that they showed? So you get into the Irish guy, and you actually like you have a, I don't want to call it like a alcohol tolerance, but like the more you drink, like the better that those berserking options are. Like the more hits you can take, and the harder you can swing. So like I think stuff like that's kind of cool, but again, like I have an issue with the fact that like you're dumping time and effort into characters that could just die, and that's my biggest beef with the game. But I am excited about it. Not excited enough to go back and play any of the old Watchdog games, but it is something I am looking forward to.
Well, you can get one for free. I don't know
On
what the
PC
limited
right
time
now.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah, on Steam. So, or the Ubisoft platform that you can play on your PC. So look out for that for Watch Dogs 2, if it's still available by the time you hear this. I want to go ahead and say that Far Cry 6, I'm very intrigued in looking at, very intrigued on seeing more of. Valhalla, like I said, it's throwing a lot of stuff out there. I'm not sure if it's going to really enhance the game, but yeah, you can get more people to fight with you. You can build more stuff, resources. It's expanding the game in different ways. None of this is earth shattering, but it's just making the experience a lot more detailed for those playing Assassin's Creed.
So my hope with Assassin's Creed, and I don't want to talk about Far Cry in a second. My hope with Assassin's Creed is that they take the mechanics that worked really well in Odyssey and they improved upon them. I didn't see a lot in terms of like naval warfare. Obviously we have some stuff going on with the boats, but that is only for the raids. And I think that would be a huge disservice to the franchise if they didn't have some kind of naval battles in there. As for the the main character himself and the quest and all that, or him or herself and the quest that you go on, what are your thoughts on this? Do you think that now that Odyssey has introduced the Isu, which is basically the first civilization, the Isu, now that they have introduced the ancient gods as being Isu, do you think that they need to carry that on? Do you think that needs to continue into Assassin's Creed Valhalla, or do you think that they're good just moving past that? Do you think there needs to be some kind of? I think that there needs to be some kind of like supernatural element in the game, but Brian from Super BS, he disagrees with me on that. What are your thoughts?
Anything to extend it out, because you got to remember, even though it's no longer a year by year franchise, it's still every other year, still a franchise that is brought out frequently. So you need as many things as you can throw in there as possible. And if the supernatural end of it becomes something that people can latch onto, I'd say all for it, man, because anything right now outside of the just the similarities, and I appreciate Ubisoft trying to make things more vast and more different each and every time you're playing Assassin's Creed, because they realize you can only do so much as far as, okay, hunt, see my target, kill my target. Okay, that's great. But if you're trying to expand the universe even more, you're going to have to go ahead at least try some of the things, and that would include the supernatural, especially what you're seeing right now within the realms of what we're seeing, or what could be possibly be seeing with Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Yeah, I hope so, because there's really only so many places their narrative can go from this point. I really love the idea of playing as Vikings, and because the Norse gods they're just messed up. They're completely messed up. And I think that it would be a cool, thing to see embodied by these Isus, by the Isu, in terms of like where their narrative can go. Are we going to end up with some kind of like really compelling God of War type story, or is it just going to be another like bland Assassin's Creed game? So I'm all about the narrative. I don't know how everyone else just kind of likes the mechanics, but I really hope for a strong narrative and some good like supernatural elements that kind of carry on, because they've done a good job of carrying on stories from Origins and Odyssey, and now I'm hoping the story from Odyssey kind of carries on into, or there's references to Odyssey within this game. Yeah, well, I mean, what do you think?
I agree with you. Anything to expand the universe and make it more interesting. I'm not been the biggest fan of Assassin's Creed. I know it depends on the Assassin's Creed, and the ones that are more widely accepted and the one that's more widely loved, I seem to latch onto, and the ones that are like on the fence or below, I don't even get interested in. To me, you need that hook, and that will help me have that hook to buy me in as far as someone who wants to play it down the road.
Yeah, well, I mean, at this point, there's been so many of them that it's not even about like carrying on the game. To me, it's about connecting them together, making it feel like each of these entries is not playing them is not a waste of time.
Yeah, yeah. Well, last but not least, on the major announcements or the major showcases for the Ubisoft Forward Conference was Far Cry 6. Now, mind you, it didn't really show any gameplay or anything of that, but it did show a lot of Giancarlo Esposito, who is, like I said before, sizzling hot right now. Mandalorian, The Boys, and also Far Cry 6 coming out in February is Far Cry 6, or at least it's scheduled to. As you know, it's always subject to change. But it looks like he is a dictator teaching his son the ropes, again, battling against those who are trying to revolt, as an opposing force. It looks like something that could be very interesting. I'm very intrigued by it, and I haven't been intrigued by too many Far Cry games in the past. What are your thoughts on Far Cry 6 before we head on to what the hell is going on with Devolver Digital?
So with Far Cry 6, I'm intrigued. I want to know more. Like, who are you going to play as the son? He's been forced to become this monster thanks to his dad. Are you going to play as a son? Or are you going to play as a rebel? This seems to kind of mirror, what's going on with, or has gone on in the past with Cuba, much like the Far Cry 5 kind of mirrored what was going on with that cult in Montana. I'm curious, like, how far they're going to push the envelope on this, but I really love the Far Cry games. I wasn't a huge fan of Primal, but I did love, Far Cry 4 and 5. Never played New Dawn. I really hope that it's what I really loved about 5 was that the world was so interesting. It's so vibrant, so many colors. The characters were fun to talk to. I hope to get some of that with Far Cry 6 because I feel like it's been not enough time between 5 and 6. So I hope that this doesn't feel like a rushed game.
I was going to say the same thing about, was it Primal and the one right before it? There was really no type of buffer between those two games.
Yeah, well, that was like Far Cry 5 and Far Cry New Dawn. Like there was, 6 months between the game coming out?
Because it was basically New Dawn was just a flip reverse of,
is leftover assets, I'm sure, with just a few, different color palettes added in there. But I just like, I don't like rushed games. And, this is already, I feel like this is a setting that has already kind of been tackled by Far Cry. So I would hope that it's a good game. The narrative is good. It's just, it has the magic of, what makes Far Cry so special.
And last but not least, on another video game presentation, if you can call it that, was the wild, as seemingly now that they do every year, over-the-top presentation at Devolver Digital. I'm going to say this right now. Devolver Digital, as far as on the food chain, is on the smaller side. They're not independent, but they're one of those few developers that are in between AAA and the independent. And there's really not that many developers in between. They qualify to me as one of those developers, and they need something to stick out. And they seem to every year when they go just all out craziness, just the stage presence, just the whole presentation of the way they do things. And oh yeah, they show off some games. I think they showed maybe like less than 10 minutes of the actual 40-minute presentation on the games. But if you're a big fan of what they do, you didn't care because it was just so wild, just so crazy. The antics of some of the people that work there and the way they go about it, and the video game celebrities that they involved. Your friend Jeff Keighley, once again, obviously, they had the Xbox boss, they had one of the PlayStation bosses, they had Suda51, they had major names there going ahead and just little bit parts and comedic stuff, and it was all in good fun. And then they showed the games, and the games they don't look AAA rate. But again, I love Serious Sam. Always willing to play it. They had some weird games coming up as well. And then they had Shadow Warrior 3, which is looking pretty good. But again, these are not top shelf, top of line games, but they sure look good. But the way they promote it, I think is second to none. And it really is somebody, if you want to go ahead, check out something wild and outrageous, check out what the heck that they're doing at Devolver Digital.
Yeah, so Devolver Digital, they've always been known for that. They've always been someone like right at the cusp of AAA gaming, but not quite breaking that ceiling. And their shows have always been outrageous in their own right. They've always had something that kind of takes you by surprise. I'm not a huge fan of their games. I don't play a lot of them. Serious Sam, I do enjoy. It's the samurai game looks kind of like a knockoff of a lot of other games that are out there. I just there's nothing there that I want to play right now. And that doesn't mean that I won't eventually try to play these games, but it wasn't something I was super impressed with.
But it is something that it's wrapped. What it's wrapped in is so wild and so crazy, and I think they know that they need to go ahead and have these outrageous performances that gets people excited. It gets social media awareness. It gets all those things that people seem to care about, that gets them at least an eye on their products. Whether or not they play them, that's a different story. And as you know, they still don't have that one quintessential hit that is going to put them over the top yet. But like you said, at least that keeps them there out in the forefront. And until such time they find and research and have that hit that they can develop, they're at least going to go ahead and keep within the public eye with these outrageous, just truly over the top, fun, but just truly just crazy, just presentations that they're going to have each year and year in, year out, whether it's at E3 or whether it's not. Just truly just over the top, a lot of fun. But yes, the games eventually will have to come to the forefront and will have to go ahead and sell themselves.
Yeah, I mean, and more power to them. I've always appreciated what they do. I would hope that, eventually they'll have something that would escalate them into like the realms of Ubisoft and Microsoft and stuff like that. But who knows?
Who knows? Who knows indeed. What are your thoughts out there on what's going on with what was shown off at the Ubisoft Forward conference? And also, what in the world is going on at Devolver Digital? We'd love to hear your thoughts on each. PopCultureCosmos at yahoo.com, or also as well PopCultureCosmos at Humanica Media and GameSource on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well. And now PopCultureCosmos is on TikTok because we like TikTok. But before, just to go ahead and give you a heads up, coming up next, we've got Rafael Esparza, heads odds maker at MyBookie and DocSports.com. Plus, right after that, Rafael Barlow from NBA Draft Junkies. And on the back end of the show, Josh and I are going to be doing some quick talking about some unsolved mysteries and the record-breaking auction for a Super Mario cartridge. That and more coming up right after the break. This is the Pop Culture Cosmos. And we're back to close out the show. This is the Pop Culture Cosmos. Cannot thank enough Rafael Esparza, heads odds maker at MyBookie and DocSports.com. Plus also as well, Rafael Barlow from NBA Draft Junkies. You got to check out his awesome YouTube page, his awesome site, and also his great podcast today, NBA Draft Junkies. You just type that in, and all of it comes right up. My friend, before we head on out, the Batman spinoff from the Batman movie, Matt Reeves announced that they're going to do a spinoff television series coming to HBO Max centering around the, get this, Gotham City Police Department. Stop and tell me if I hadn't heard this before, aka Gotham on Fox.
Yeah, I honestly, man, I'm not interested. Like, I feel like at this point there are too many worlds being created within the DC universe, and I don't have time. It's like I was sitting down the other day. We just finished watching Stranger Things, seen it already. But, as we're going through it again, and, that was over, and I was trying to figure out, like, what do I want to watch next? So we started watching Westworld, and there's so little time. I have like 30 minutes at night to watch a show, or sometimes an hour, and I usually fall asleep during it. And Gotham having a spin-off of Batman is just something that I probably will not watch. I did love the first few seasons of Gotham, but this is it's something I don't know anything. I haven't seen the movie yet, and I don't know if the police in that world are going to be interesting, or or Gordon or whatever it might be. But this is not something that I am too keen on watching. But what are your thoughts?
I don't know if I'm going to go out of my way to watch it. I mean, it's got to get off to a good start. I might be interested to see it. Also, as well, I think that's going to lead into my interest level for the Batman series of films, which right now is planned as a series of films. Are we going to be able to get into Robert Pattinson playing the Batman? We're going to see how people gravitate towards it, and also this spin-off TV series, if people are going to gravitate towards it as well. I'm not sure about it. I really don't. It's going to have some type of hook, but we'll wait and see how that plays out. But yeah, I'm not overly enthused by it, but I just wanted to get out there because I know a lot of people are talking about it, but how much they're going to be talking about it and how much they're excited for it all depends on their level of excitement for the Batman movies coming up. Well, it's going to start with a movie, but it's hopefully going to lead into a movie trilogy, according to Matt Reeves, coming up when the Batman, I think when it plays, if all goes well and all is scheduled well, coming up next year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm torn about this. It's another Batman movie. It sounds cool. I'll probably go watch it. We have seen so many iterations of Batman. It's just like Spider-Man. We've seen so many iterations of this hero within the last 10 years, and it's not a world I'm super thrilled to dive back into anytime soon. But who knows? It could surprise me and be a lot more than I'm expecting. But like right now, I'm not expecting too much.
And that's a Batman spinoff focusing on the Gotham City Police Department. That's coming maybe next year. Who knows? Coming most likely between the Batman movie, and if it does well enough, a second the Batman movie, and it'll be coming to HBO Max. Speaking of streaming series, before we head on out, my friend, I want to ask you real quick. Unsolved Mysteries has returned, but this time, all the depictions, all the stuff that they're looking for, all the people that they're looking for, all they're talking about, all the recreations and reenactments, all that stuff that you remember from the 90s and watching the Unsolved Mystery shows. It's coming back in a little bit more glossier, more high-produced format, and it's come back to Netflix. It's getting a pretty good response. Not overwhelming, but it's getting a pretty good response. In fact, I posted a story here earlier today, and it actually got a decent response. So I want to hear your thoughts on Unsolved Mysteries coming back to the world of Netflix.
There's so much on Netflix right now that like if you hadn't have told me about this, I probably wouldn't have noticed it. It sounds exciting. I always enjoy listening to podcasts and watching shows like that. I just hope that they're not just trying to make a show of a podcast. I hope that it's something that,
well, it's based off the television show from the 90s.
Right. And like I hope it's good. I hope it's not something like an A&E show, but again, like I don't have a lot of history in watching these shows, but it's something you're obviously interested in. So what are your thoughts on it?
I used to watch it back in the day. I think it was the late 80s, early 90s, I think, when the show actually was on the air. And at that time, we would gather around the TV and try to, figure out the mystery for our own and find out exactly, how this person vanished or who murdered this person or whatnot. And that only is accentuated, like what you were, I think, alluding to when it comes to podcasts, that the boom of true crime podcasts that are out there has exploded onto the marketplace, and people's fascination with true crime and mystery and things of that nature has emanated from what the days of the Twilight Zone back in the day. Now the Twilight Zone has come back again. Unsolved Mysteries, that was back in the day. Now it's come back. And so a lot of people are now just their fascination and their just insatiable desire for mystery and true crime is there. And we've even talked about, doing behind the scenes, talk about true crime to some extent as well. And when it comes to Unsolved Mysteries, I think this is a very high gloss production of it. I think the values of it are much better than obviously what they could have conceived of back in the 90s. I think it's going over pretty well. And I know that for season 2, the showrunners and producers are already talking about ghosts as far as adding that element in there for season 2. So a lot of people are looking forward to it. In fact, when I posted the article today, people were already thumbs up and giving the hearts and all that. So a lot of people, I guess, are interested in Unsolved Mysteries. So going forward, I think it's going to be something that a lot of people are going to be talking about. How much? That I'm not sure. I don't know if you're going to say it's the next Tiger King or if it's going to be one of the most watched on Netflix. We'll wait and see how well it stays on that list of most watched programs on Netflix. But it is Unsolved Mysteries. It's now back on the air. It's on Netflix. So people, hopefully you will get a chance, if you're interested in true crime and mystery, to go ahead and check it out on Netflix real soon. But my friend, before we head on out, I want to go ahead and talk about a record-breaking auction for Super Mario. That's right. As I'm showing here on the screen, a Super Mario cartridge that you're seeing right now, if you're watching on Facebook Live, just went for $114,000. It's a rare, unopened copy of the classic Super Mario Brothers game for the Nintendo Entertainment System. And if I'm thinking about Rob and Jay at a time like this with Nintendo, when it comes to Nintendo Quest and all that. But when you hear that mind-boggling, amount for the auction, what are your thoughts when it comes to Super Mario?
It gives me faith in the collectability of games. You always hear stories about people like, oh, hey, this game was worth so-and-so, but then you have the issue of like trying to find someone to pay that. For example, that Superman comic that went for like what, $2 million a couple years ago, something around there. It's just it gives me a lot of faith in collectability, and it goes to show this is one of those things which I imagine is going to drive the value of retro games up. But it's nice to know that this is something, if you're a collector and you're investing your money in stuff like this, like it could very possibly have a return one day.
Hopefully, for a lot of people out there. And I know if we're going to be looking and scouring through their attics, through their basements, through their piles, through their closets, and through their libraries for any games that they think might be valuable. If it's not going to go at auction for $114,000, go ahead and talk to our friends at Retro City Games. You'll be glad you did, because they may tell you they have a good value for it, and you may want to go ahead and sell it to them. But when it comes to those really outrageous games like Super Mario, brand new, unopened in the box, or stadium events, or the Nintendo World Championship cartridges, which are so valued out there. And I love seeing those videos and seeing those countdowns of the most valuable video games that are out there. So this is now going to be among them. And I'm just interested to see where the market for these rare video games go from there. I know if Amazon's Crucible had come out in a box format, that would have been something I would have jumped all over, because if you didn't hear the news, Amazon's Crucible did so well, they just pulled it off as far as off the digital storefronts because it was a true disaster. And Amazon's next game, New World, they have now so little confidence in that, they have delayed that game indefinitely. So,
Crucible, from what I've heard, is the first game ever to go back into beta after being a fully released game.
That's right. They went back into closed beta. I wish there had been a hard copy of that, because I would have loved to get my hands on it, because that could have been 10 years from now. That could have been the next $100,000 game. So, unfortunately, it's, I believe, only digital only. But if you got a hard copy of it, one day soon, you could be a rich person. What are your thoughts out there on the Super Mario cartridge for the NES, unboxed, unopened, that you see right here? A+, 9.4 rating. It recently got $114,000 at auction. Do you have any rare cartridges that you're thinking about selling? let us know. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Not that we're going to buy it or anything, but we'd love to do an interview with you to help get you some publicity, because I don't think we could raise enough cash for that. But anyways, before we head on out, my friend, I just want to go ahead and let everybody know, if you have any questions for us, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com, at popculturecosmo on Twitter, on TikTok, we're on Pop Culture Cosmos, Instagram, Facebook, we're always great to reach at. Humanica Media, I know you got a Super BS Games cast that's coming along the way, just dropped on Anchor. It's going to drop on Pop Culture Cosmos very soon. A ton of Lakers Fast Break podcasts. And of course, our continuous countdown of the top 100-ish movie countdown, that's coming up as well. We've already got some written stuff up on our site, popculturecosmos.com, on that. And plus, you can listen to our back episodes to catch up on where we're at with the top 100-ish movie countdown. But if you're on Facebook Live, you're seeing it right now. You're seeing all the great stuff that we're doing. Super BS Gamescast, Lakers Fast Break, the Pop Culture Cosmos, the PCC Multiverse, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, all the articles, all the reviews. You've got 2 reviews for, one's coming up, I think, with Jurassic Park. You did one with Alan Wake. You did one on anime. Just a ton of stuff on pop culture coming up right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos.
Yes, a lot of cool content coming out. I was just talking with Gerald before the show started, working on something really special right now.
It's a secret.
We'll be able to talk about that more later. But yeah, lots of great stuff on the website, www.popculturecosmos.com.
Been a great show, my friend. I cannot thank enough both Raphaels for being on the show today. And of course, you as always. Any last thoughts on the way out?
I don't want to say too much. I might be tempted to spill some secrets that are not ready to be divulged yet. So I think I'm good right now.
Shh. It's a secret. It's a secret indeed. So for Josh Peterson, this is Gerald Glassford. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the Pop Culture Cosmos. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great